I caught my fiancée cheating at her own bachelorette party. When I canceled the wedding, she dropped to the floor screaming, "You're throwing everything away over one night?" The worst part? Her parents actually begged me to reconsider. Hello Reddit I+ here. I never planned to tell anyone what happened the week before my wedding. Honestly, I thought I'd bury the memory so deep that even I would forget it. But some things burn themselves into your life so sharply that silence starts to feel like a lie. So here it goes. The night everything fell apart. The night I discovered the person I loved most was capable of a betrayal so loud it echoed long after the wedding that never happened. Back then, I was 24, working long shifts at a shipping depot, saving up for a house, doing my best to build something stable. My fiancée, Mara, was 22, studying cosmetology and planning her dream ceremony. For months, she talked about flowers, seating charts, cake flavors, little gold centerpieces she insisted were non-negotiable. She had that kind of confidence that pulled people in, a brightness that made you want to believe in her. And I did. Completely. Her family loved me. Her friends joked I was practically a saint for working the hours I did, while still showing up for every tasting, every planning meeting, every errand she asked me to run. I thought we were solid, building a life that felt real and promising. I was wrong. It started 2 nights before her bachelorette party. My friend Rylan invited me to a small gathering for his cousin's 25th birthday at a quiet rooftop lounge in the city. It wasn't a wild party, more like a mellow place with overpriced cocktails and soft music drifting from speakers hidden in potted plants. I asked Mara if she was cool with me going. She nodded without much enthusiasm and muttered something like, "Fine, just keep it short." I figured she was stressed from wedding planning. People snap a bit under pressure, right? I kissed her forehead, told her I'd be home by 10, and left. At the lounge, I stuck by Rylan and his cousin the whole time. I had 1 drink, spent half the evening talking about a raise I hoped to get, and texted Mara a few updates. Nothing dramatic, just normal stuff. "Hope your night's going well. This music is actually pretty good. Heading home soon." She responded once, then nothing. I left early, grabbed her favorite pastry from a 24-hour bakery, and walked into our apartment feeling like I was doing everything right. I was being thoughtful, responsible, predictable in the good way. She was sitting on the couch, staring at the door like she had been waiting to catch me in a lie. I held out the pastry bag. She didn't take it. She didn't smile. Her eyes flicked across my shirt, my hands, my face, as if checking for traces of something she was already convinced existed. "Where were you, really?" she asked. No hint of curiosity, just accusation. I told her exactly where I had been, who I was with, what I drank. She didn't believe a word. She pulled up a blurry picture someone had posted on social media, showing me and 2 other people talking near the bar. One of them happened to be a woman I didn't know, leaning in because the music had gotten louder. "This is why you ignored me," she said. "You think I'm stupid." I tried to reason with her, tried to explain that I had done nothing wrong, but she threw the pastry bag in the trash without even looking inside. And then she said something that stuck in my mind like a spike. "You're playing games behind my back, and you expect me to smile like nothing happened." I should have known then things were about to get ugly. The next morning she apologized. Kind of. She blamed stress, wedding pressure, hormones, everything under the sun except herself. She asked if she could still have her bachelorette party. I told her of course she could. I wanted her to have fun. I wanted her happy. I wanted, desperately, to believe the fight was behind us. Looking back, that was the last moment I was truly naive. She and her friends booked a private room at a vineyard an hour outside the city. Fancy dresses, a white sash, matching shirts, the whole works. She left around 2 in the afternoon, blowing me a kiss that didn't feel real. Around 6 that evening, my phone buzzed, a message from her cousin. A single sentence that froze every muscle in my body. "You need to come get her." I called immediately, but she didn't pick up. Her cousin answered instead, sounding panicked. "You should just come. I think you need to see for yourself." When I arrived at the vineyard, the staff met me outside. Their expressions said enough. One of them muttered something about inappropriate behavior. Another pointed toward the back patio with a look of embarrassment. I walked through the dimly lit room, heart pounding, dread building with every step. And there, on that patio, framed by string lights and empty wine glasses, was my fiancée. She was straddling one of the groomsmen. I didn't shout. I didn't storm in. I froze. My brain detached from my body for a moment, as if disbelief needed a second to catch up to what my eyes were seeing. One of her friends, drunk and horrified, held up her phone and whispered. I recorded it because I knew no one would believe us. That was the moment I knew the wedding was done. I left without a word, drove home in a fog, packed her things into a neat row of boxes by the door. When she stumbled in later with her cousin supporting her, she saw the boxes and fell to the floor like her legs gave out. "You're throwing everything away over one mistake," she screamed. One night that you planned," I replied. I wasn't angry, I wasn't shouting, I was just empty. Her parents showed up within the hour. They had watched the footage already, yet they begged me to think about the future, to remember the love, to forgive her. Her father even tried to argue that bachelorette parties get messy, that I shouldn't judge one lapse in judgment. I asked him one question: would you forgive this if it were your wife? He couldn't answer. They eventually packed her things and left, still pleading on her behalf as if reason could be glued back on her like a broken handle. The following week, she tried everything. Calls at all hours, letters, long texts where she swore it meant nothing, messages from friends telling me I was heartless, messages from others saying they understood and hoped I stayed strong. But the truth was simple. She destroyed something I never planned to share with anyone, the quiet trust I had built piece by piece, the belief that honesty still existed between us. I canceled the wedding. I didn't look back. And sometimes late at night, I still hear her words echoing in my head. "You're throwing everything away over one night." Except it wasn't one night. It was the moment she showed me who she really was. The moment she tore apart the future we planned with her own hands. And once someone reveals the truth of who they are, you can't unsee it. You can pretend, you can delay, but you can never unsee it. That is what I learned. The hard way, the unforgettable way. And that is why I finally decided to tell the story I never wanted to speak out loud. In the days that followed, I thought things would finally settle. The wedding was canceled, her belongings were gone, and I assumed everyone would just move on. I underestimated her. What came next was a full campaign. A storm she created, with the single goal of pulling me back into her orbit. At first it was emotional pleas, long voice messages, rambling and tear-filled, begging me to hear her out. Then came the angry messages, accusing me of destroying her life, accusing me of humiliating her, accusing me of abandoning her at her lowest moment. She alternated between sobbing apologies and furious rants every few hours. It was a carousel of manipulation, spinning faster each day. Then her friends joined in. Some sent sad little paragraphs about how relationships have bumps. Others sent aggressive walls of text calling me cold, selfish, unloving. A few tried to guilt-trip me by saying she was barely eating, barely sleeping, barely functioning. I blocked every number. But she found new ways. She showed up at my job once, standing outside the loading dock in a white summer dress, looking like she wanted to perform Heartbreak for an audience. My supervisor walked out with me, and the second she saw him beside me, she collapsed dramatically against the wall and cried, like the world was ending. Two of my coworkers helped guide her back to her parents' car. She wailed the entire time. That night, I got a message from her mother. "I hope you feel proud of yourself. She is inconsolable." I didn't respond. I thought the theatrics were the peak of it. They were not. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from her family's attorney. Accusations, claims, allegations so wildly twisted I had to read them 3 times. They were attempting to say I had caused emotional harm through abandonment, that I called off the wedding without reason, that I left her in distress after a misunderstanding, that I had damaged her reputation. The letter included a threat to take me to court to recover wedding costs and emotional damages. My hands shook with a mix of disbelief and fury. I sat down with my own attorney the next morning. He read the letter, raised his eyebrows, and asked one question: "Do you have proof of what happened?" I handed him my phone, the footage, the messages, the voice recordings. He didn't even finish watching the video before closing the file and leaning back in his chair. "They have no case," he said. "Absolutely none. If they push this, they will be embarrassed." He wrote a response so sharp her attorney never replied directly. Instead, a week later her father called me himself, voice low and tired, asking if we could pretend none of this legal nonsense had happened. I told him I wanted no further contact. Not with him, not with her, not with anyone tied to that family. He sighed and said he understood, but she didn't stop. She sent long midnight emails describing how she was still meant to be my wife. She tried to rewrite the story, portraying herself as confused and overwhelmed that night, insisting she didn't remember anything. Then later, she claimed she remembered everything and that the groomsmen had pressured her. Then she switched again, saying it was all my fault for making her feel insecure the night I went to that rooftop lounge. Every message contradicted the last. Every paragraph bent the truth until it snapped. And with every new attempt, she grew more desperate. One evening I found a small envelope slipped under my apartment door. Inside was a handwritten letter promising she would get help, that she would start therapy, that she would never drink again, that she only wanted one conversation, just one, to tell me how deeply she still loved me. I read it once, folded it, and dropped it in the trash. The next morning, she tried something new. She left a voicemail telling me she had spoken to the groomsman. According to her, he was willing to tell me it was a misunderstanding, that nothing truly happened, that the video looked worse than it was. She said if I cared at all, even as a human being, I would hear her out. My attorney told me not to respond. I listened. Days turned into weeks. The messages slowed. The theatrics faded. Her attempts to trap me in guilt, responsibility, pity, or obligation kept slipping through her fingers. Everything she tried failed. Her court threat collapsed. Her manipulation failed. Her guilt trips cracked apart. Her illusions lost their power. I walked away completely. And for the first time in months, I felt the quiet. Not the painful kind. Not the lonely kind. The good kind. The kind that wraps around you gently and reminds you that peace is possible after chaos. I changed my number. I moved to a different building. Her world kept spinning without me in it. Mine slowly began to steady. I learned something important through all of it. Some people love the fantasy of being adored more than the reality of being honest. Some people want devotion without accountability. Some people cling to you not because they value you, but because they cannot stand losing control. And once you see that, truly see it, you can never unsee it. That is why I finally walked away without hesitation, without regret, without ever turning back. Because sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is leave exactly when the world is begging them to stay.